Sindhi culture में उन्हनि ते ॻाल्हि ॿोल करियूं. So सभ खां पहिरीं मां invite करणु चाहींदुसि Emily Hawes खे. Emily is US based. We call her American Sindhi. Been to Sindh many times and has been working on the poetry of Shah Latif for past 5-6 years, and she often shares her translations on Facebook. A lot of us have keenly seen her work, and I personally am a great admirer of her poetry translations, and not just translation, but sometimes the interpretation and the context that she brings up with her translation is, I think, a new, a unique, and phenomenal work. And I've been asking her, why don't you publish the book? So I hope one day her great work will be published in a book form. So over to you, Miss Emily Hawes.
Well, thank you so much, Mushtaq. Thank you so much for inviting me, and to you and also to Sohail for organizing this event. It feels so nice to be among Sindhi people again. It's been quite a while for me because of COVID. I haven't been able to travel, and you get such a wonderful feeling being around Sindhi people. So I'm really glad to be with you all here. And today's Mushairo actually takes me back to an earlier event that was really important in my development as a lover of Sindh. It was way back in the fall of 2014, 7 whole years ago. At that time, I hadn't yet traveled to Sindh, but Sindh was already coming to me. And let me paint a picture of the scene. So my husband, Andrew, and I had arrived at the home of Johnny Abro in New Jersey, which is a couple of hours from where we live. And we had come to a Mushairo. And gathered there were a handful of Sindhi luminaries, and actually many of them were the same ones who are here with us right now. So we had Imdad Hussaini and Sahar Shah and Noor Huda Shah, who had traveled from Sindh, and dear Hassan Mujtaba was there with several other members of our American Sindhi circle. But at that time, I could only understand a handful of Sindhi words, and I'd never really heard the language spoken before. And so here I was, suddenly plunged into a sea of Sindhi speaking. And maybe I could have been a bit daunted by that. I could have been a bit scared or felt out of place, but that wasn't the case at all. Because coming to this gathering felt like being wrapped in a warm cloak. The atmosphere was just full of love. And I happened to be wearing my first ever Sindhi outfit at the time. It was a traditional dress made of ajrak cloth with colorful embroidery and some small mirror tiles. And seeing this dress, Imdad Hussaini immediately burst into poetry. He started reciting a verse about a girl whose mirror tiles reflected the light of the moon. And in doing that, he invited me into the poetry itself. Even though I couldn't understand the language yet, I became a part of it. In a sense, he invited me to become the poem. And a little later in the evening, I was sitting next to Sahar Shah, who was holding a notebook of her own poetry to read from. And she was surprised at the time to learn that I could read the Sindhi alphabet already. That much I had studied on my own. And she helped me patiently as I very slowly sounded out some of the words that she had written there. And she was so kind and warm to me as she painstakingly translated each word for me. And from that moment on, and still now, even though we haven't met in person again since that day, I still feel a deep connection to her as a kind of a family member, someone I can trust and learn from. And so I'm always so happy when she reads my translations now. And I want to read to you just a couple of words I wrote all the way back then at that time, because my impressions from that day, I think, still feel very alive to me. So what I wrote then, as a brand new Sindhiani, I wrote, poetry is like a basic nutrient for the Sindhi soul. A poet in a Western style is typically detached, lofty, and elevated. But a Sindhi poet, by contrast, feels more like a parent or a grandparent, sharing nourishing morsels with his or her family. In a sense, I feel as if I'm being given a second childhood. I don't feel like a foreigner among Sindhis, but like a Sindhi myself who is still growing up in the culture and learning its ways. I feel that I'm being educated and instructed by a warm new family, a family who accepts me for all that I am already, a product of my own culture, as well as for the full potential of what I might become as I grow into my new culture. And so since that time, I've grown from being a sort of infant Sindhiani to a kind of unusual adolescent, I might say. My spoken Sindhi is sadly very, very weak in most situations, but my writing is improved and my reading is greatly improved. But I should step back a moment and give a quick personal history for any of you who might not know who I am and how my Sindhi journey began. There was a time in my life growing up here in America and beyond growing up as an adult when I still hadn't heard of Sindh. I did have a natural interest in South Asia, which came from my early childhood, but Sindh wasn't on my radar until it happened one day about 10 years ago that I got a Facebook friend request from a Sindhi journalist. It was Nisar Kokar. And I was curious enough about this whole thing to start communicating with him. And he gave me my very first glimpse of Sindh. Soon after that, many other Sindhi people on Facebook noticed my interest, and all of them were excited to share with me some new information about Sindhi culture and Sindhi history. And I was enchanted by the enthusiasm of the Sindhi people for this ancient culture. And gradually, I was lucky enough to gather hundreds and then thousands of other online Sindhi friends. And the greatest gift that Facebook gave me was a new and true family. Many of you know already, the family of Dr. Saeed Sanghi and Larkana has taken me to their hearts and into their home as a true daughter. And I can't even begin to describe how precious they are to me. And all of that magic of Facebook, which opened up Sindh to my awareness, unfolded over several years. But it must have been quite early on in that cultural exchange that I first heard the name of Shah Abdul Latif. And I soon came to realize that this was no ordinary poet. This was a larger than life figure, a kind of a patron saint of everything that's most dear to the Sindhi heart. And I saw the deep emotional connection that all Sindhi people seem to feel to Latif, and the way a single verse can move them to tears. And it became clear to me that if I really wanted to learn about Sindh, if I wanted to understand it in any deeper way, it wouldn't be possible without Shah Latif. But how could I do this? Because before coming to Sindh, I didn't really have access to any translations. The American people are sadly still very unaware of Shah Latif. And so it wasn't possible for me at the time to get a hold of any translation. And so the best and possibly the only way for me to get to know Shah Latif back then was to learn the language. And that was really my main inspiration for learning Sindhi in the first place. And of course, I wanted to understand Sindhi so I could understand my friends and family as they were talking in their everyday language. But Shah Latif was really my guiding star and my inspiration for learning Sindhi. And now that I'm working on my own translation, I've done a lot of thinking about what it is that I'm trying to accomplish and how will my translation be different from the other ones that already exist, which I do have access to now, thankfully. Some of these existing translations have beautiful poetic language, but they might stray a great deal from the literal meaning of the text. I'm thinking, for example, of the beautiful early translation by H.T. Sorley from way back in 1938. And others, like the very recent translation by Christopher Shackle, are extremely helpful, very true to the meaning of the verse, but they don't attempt to put it into verse form. And yet others like Elza Kazi's wonderful translation are excellent in the interpretation of the meaning and in beautiful poetic verse, but they're not complete. So they leave many verses of the Risala still to be translated. And my goal is to offer a translation that will fill in some of these gaps. And of course, the meaning of the poetry always has to be the #1 concern, and every translator has to focus on meaning first, but that's not actually the only thing that we need to think of, especially if we're putting together a poetic version of the text. What I mean by that is you could take a very beautiful poem and rewrite it in a way such that the message is all the same, but it loses the beauty and the music. And so my goal is to pay close attention to the aesthetic elements of the verse, the rhythm, the music, and the beauty, because I think these things also carry a great deal of the spirit of the text. And for me, as someone with a background in musical studies, the rhythm of the verse is very important in the way it sounds when it's read aloud. So my translation reproduces the rhythm of the Sindhi bait in English with the same number of syllables and the same rhyme scheme. And this means you could even sing my translation to the same melodies that you would use in Sindhi. And I try to use English words and idioms that have the same range of color and meanings and emotions as the Sindhi original. And I hope to create a translation that will touch the heart on many different levels, with echoes, at least, of the original. And of course, this is a high aspiration, especially for someone like me who has come to the language and the poetry so late in the day. But I'm devoted to giving the work the detailed attention it requires. Knowing my own insufficiencies in Sindhi, I do extensive research on each verse that I translate, and I use a good dictionary to look deeply into every word, and I study all of the modern Sindhi explanations of each verse and all the notes that are available in Sindhi to me. And finally, when I feel very confident that I understand not only the immediate meaning, but the whole glow of meanings that surround that central idea, then I embark on the creative work, which is the translation itself. That is, how to turn a mere set of words into something that sings with the emotion of the original. And there are an infinite number of ways to do that, but the essence of that work is love. And I think a good translation is always an act of love. And so I want to end this little talk by reading you just one translation of mine, just one bait of Shah Latif, but it's a long bait. And it will be familiar to everyone. It might not be familiar by the first couple of lines, but you'll recognize it by the end. So this is from Sur Sarang. Gathering clouds have brought again a rainy atmosphere. Lightning strikes on every side, midst rain it flashes clear. Some rains fly to Istanbul, some in the west appear. Some glitter over China, some to Samarkand bring cheer. Clouds hover over Rum and Kabul, to Kandahar they veer. Some to Delhi and the Deccan, some to Mount Gurnar we hear. Jaisalmer has thunderous rains, a flood greets Bikaner. Some rains soak Bhuj, some pour upon the desert, Dutch frontier. Some bless Umarkot to give its plains a green veneer. My Lord, pray shower Sindh with thy abundance far and near. Sweet friend, the heart's most dear. Oh, bless humanity with plenty. Sainam Sadain Kareem, Mati Sindh Sukar, Dosta